All right, let's jump right in. When we see the headlines about Iran and Israel, the whole conflict feels so modern, right? A 21st century problem through and through. But what if I told you that the source material for this explainer says that to really get it, we need to rewind the clock? Not 70 years, but 3,500 years. Yeah, let's unpack that.
So today's most obvious flashpoint is, of course, Iran's nuclear program. For decades, this one question, is Iran building a bomb, has been this constant drumbeat in the news, keeping world leaders and, honestly, all of us on the edge of our seats.
And then you've got this whole other layer of complexity, these proxy wars. Iran backs groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, and this creates a messy, multi-front conflict that stretches way beyond its own borders. It makes any kind of simple solution almost impossible.
And you can't ignore the rhetoric. I mean, where Iran's leadership calls Israel the little Satan, it's not just political trash talk. It frames the entire struggle in these stark, almost spiritual terms. And this, right here, is where our source material takes a very sharp turn.
This is the huge question our source is asking. It suggests that everything we're seeing today, all the politics, the threats, the fiery speeches, are really just modern echoes of a much, much older story. A story that didn't start in the UN, but in a desert tent.
According to the source we're looking at, the real origin point isn't a clash of nations at all. It's a deep wound inside a single family, the family of Abraham, his wife Sarah, and her servant Hagar. So let's quickly walk through how this went down. God calls Abraham, promises him this great nation, but years go by and nothing, no kids. So Abraham and Sarah cook up a human solution. Abraham has a son, Ishmael, with Hagar. But then the miracle they were waiting for finally happens. Sarah gives birth to Isaac. Well, the tension just explodes when the older brother, Ishmael, mocks the toddler Isaac, and Sarah demands they be sent away. It is an absolutely heartbreaking family breakdown.
Now here's what's so fascinating. God doesn't just forget about Ishmael. No, he promises to make him a great nation too. But their paths, their destinies are totally different. Isaac is the son of the promise, and he carries that main covenant, the one about the land and the lineage of redemption. Ishmael's blessed, for sure, but he's outside of that specific plan. This right here is the critical fork in the road.
And this leads to a really tough but crucial prophecy about Ishmael. The source material is clear. This isn't a curse from God. It's interpreted as a prophetic description of the kind of spirit that would define many of his descendants. Fiercely independent, often in conflict and living with this deep-seated hostility toward their relatives.
So here's the bottom line. The source argues that the animosity we see playing out on the world stage today doesn't come from God. It comes from this ancient, unhealed wound, a spiritual trauma of rejection, of being cast out, that's been passed down through thousands of years.
Okay, so how does this ancient family beef connect to modern nations? Well, where does modern Iran fit in? Ancient Iran was Persia. And get this, according to our source, Persia plays two completely opposite roles in the Bible. It's really fascinating.
It's like this incredible Jekyll and Hyde situation. On one hand, you've got Cyrus the Great, a Persian king who God literally calls his anointed. This guy frees the Jews from captivity in Babylon and even pays for them to rebuild their temple. An amazing friend. But then, in the very same Persian Empire, you get Haman, an official who hatches a plot to completely exterminate the Jewish people.
The book of Esther lays this whole terrifying plot out for us. Haman's hatred isn't just for one guy, Mordecai. Nope. He uses his power to turn his personal vendetta into state policy, a royal decree to kill every single Jew. It's only because of the unbelievable courage of Queen Esther that the whole thing is exposed and turned on its head. But where did this genocidal rage even come from?
Okay, so this is where the source makes a really specific connection. Haman wasn't just some random guy. He was a descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites. Now, in the Bible, Amalek is Israel's ultimate ancient enemy, the very first nation to attack them when they were weak and vulnerable in the desert. The source argues that because Israel's king Saul failed to completely deal with them centuries earlier, this hateful spirit of Amalek was able to survive and pop up again, right in the heart of Persia, through Haman.
And that brings us to this major biblical prophecy in the book of Ezekiel. It's one that the source claims predicts a total flip in Persia's role, from that historic friend we saw with Cyrus to a primary enemy in the end times.
And check this out. This is where it gets really specific. The prophecy in Ezekiel 38 explicitly names Persia as part of a future invasion force that will attack Israel.
But what's mind-blowing is when it says this will happen, after Israel has been reborn as a nation and its people have been gathered back from all over the world. A description that, to money, sounds exactly like the modern state of Israel.
So this table just lays it all out for us. You've got this alliance, led by a figure named Gog, and who is right there as a key partner? Persia, modern-day Iran. For centuries after this prophecy was written, this made no sense. Persia was a friend. But here we are today.
But get this, here's the wild part. The prophecy doesn't say the Israeli army wins this war. It describes a direct, supernatural act of God. The invading armies are wiped out by earthquakes, disease, friendly fire, and literally fire and brimstone from the sky. The victory, according to the text, is 100% divine, not human.
So you have to ask, how did this massive shift from friend to prophesied enemy even happen? The source points to one pivotal moment, the Islamic conquest of Persia in the 7th century. It argues that over time, especially with the theology of modern Iran, a new belief about the end times took root. That the state of Israel is a religious obstacle that has to be removed before their messianic figure, the Mahdi, can return. Suddenly, the conflict wasn't just political, it became deeply theological. But look, the story doesn't just end there, in this giant, cataclysmic war. Our source material is adamant that the Bible's final word isn't destruction. It's a surprising, powerful message of ultimate hope and even reconciliation. I mean, just listen to this incredible prophecy from Isaiah. It talks about a future day when Israel and its most bitter historical enemies, Egypt and Assyria, a region that includes parts of modern Iran and Iraq, will actually worship God together. It's a vision not of endless war, but of a healed, reconciled family of nations. So when you boil it all down, the final takeaway from the source material is this. The real battle isn't really between Iranian people and Israeli people. It's framed as a spiritual war, a cosmic struggle between a force that wants to derail God's promises and a divine plan that, according to the text, has never, ever been stopped. And that leaves us with one last, pretty mind-bending thought to chew on. If history really is a kind of script, unfolding according to a plan, like this biblical view suggests, then what does it mean for us to be living in a time when we think we can already read the final chapter? That's a profound question to sit with.